Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I am your host, Courtney Anderson. Thank you for joining me today. I am excited because this show is the debut of a new series. So I want to welcome you to the Satisfaction Saturation series. And Satisfaction Saturation, say that 5 times fast, was created not to be a tongue twister, but it was because there's so many different types of community members that attend programs, that I meet at speaking events, that reach out to me with questions and concerns, that I felt that we needed to have this series to address a certain perspective and to handle some of the questions and concerns I receive from people in this sort of phase of their professional and personal development. So what are we talking about? What is satisfaction saturation, and who are these people? Well, the whole idea is sort of envision there you are in life, and you've sort of climbed a mountain. Either it could be literally a mountain. I know actually many people who do that. It could be a figurative mountain. It could be some sort of accomplishment. You've achieved some sort of professional goal or level that you aspired to, or promotion or income. Maybe it's a financial goal. You've reached a certain goal that you'd set in terms of your assets or your net worth. Maybe it's an academic goal. You've completed a degree program, or maybe you just completed a trip around the world, or maybe you just adopted a child, or maybe it could be literally anything. Now, many of the things that we do in life are just the beginning of a lifelong adventure and experience. So starting a family, things of that nature, it's just the beginning of something fantastic. And there's just daily things that you're going to experience that are going to be awesome and that are going to be challenging. But there's some things in life that we experience where, especially when we set the goal ahead of time, so we'll think, oh my goodness, we're a young person. We'll think, I can't wait until I graduate and I go to high school. High school is going to be so great. It'll be so different from all the, elementary school and being in junior high or middle school. I'm going to be a big kid. I'm going to be in high school, and you're just really excited about it, and you look forward to it. And then you kind of get there, and there's an initial excitement, and then you climb that mountain, and at some point, and it might be the day you graduate from high school or somewhere earlier than that, you feel like, you know what, I've done this. Like, I'm over high school. I don't need to come back through in life and do high school again. I've completed it. I've earned my high school diploma. I am moving on. And so it's not the beginning, because that experience has been completed. You did it. You checked everything off the list. You ascended to the summit of the mountain. You've done it. And for whatever reason, you've determined, I'm not going to go do it again. I'm not going back through high school. I'm not going to reclimb this mountain again. I've finished it. Okay. That's the type of experience that you put so much work into. It could be something you look forward to for years or even decades, and then you did it. And there, like, initially, of course, there's that rush. There you are on the top of that mountain, and you're looking around, and you're breathing that air, and you're thinking, wow, I did it. Woo! And of course, hopefully, I'm sure at this point in life, you would have, videotaped it and have lots of documentation and a lifelong record, so you can sort of, relive that experience if you want to, at least the recording of it. But most of the time, with things like that, there's sort of a terminal point, and we don't want to go climb the same mountain again. Like, I already did it. We don't want to go back through high school again. We already did that diploma program. And you've reached the level where there's no more of this experience. There's nothing more of this experience that you want. You don't want any more high school. You don't want to climb this mountain anymore, because here you are at the pinnacle. Nothing else to do. And sometimes it might happen in a job experience. Somebody might have aimed to be, CEO of a specific organization, and maybe they worked there for decades, and now you're CEO, and you've been CEO for a while. So the kind of, the rush is worn away, and maybe you're at a point where you're thinking, I've done this. There's not really anything else to climb in this job. That's satisfaction saturation. You aimed for a goal, you met the goal, you surpassed the goal, you sort of grasped every little bit of excitement and joy and adventure out of that goal, and now you're done. And you're sort of standing at the top of the mountain and you're thinking, okay, I've done this, it's wonderful. What's next? Okay, what's next? And this is a specific type of personality and a specific type of person. And that's one of the reasons why I created the new series, because it's unique from some of the other series. And along with many of the other programs we put forward, we've got series for, HR heroes, that if you're an HR hero or interested in HR, you want to be part of that. But a lot of people have just zero interest or not part of that, so that series might not be helpful for them. And it's the same thing with the Satisfaction Saturation series. Many people are at a point in their lives where they haven't accomplished any of those big goals that they've set for themselves. They haven't gotten to the summit of the mountain, so they're dealing with all of that. How do I do that? How do I get there? How do I stay motivated? Those are totally different concerns and issues and questions than the population of people who are experiencing the other side of that. I've climbed the mountain. Now what? That's a totally different challenge. It's a different part of that cycle, that life cycle. So we needed to address it. And it's an exciting part of life. And it's interesting. It reminds me of I'd taken a class relatively recently, human development, and sort of, everything from literally, development of a fetus, development of a baby and a young child, and through adolescence, and then as an adult, an early adult, middle adulthood, and then the part of the course that dealt with later adulthood, and sort of an acknowledgement in the text that there had been historically not a lot of attention paid. That there's a lot of attention paid on, we gotta look at the baby, and oh my goodness, we've got a young person, and look at the adolescent, and there's somebody in their 20s or 30s. But by the time we were looking at people maybe in their 70s and 80s and 90s and beyond, nobody was really paying attention, thinking, well, what's there to talk about? What development's happening? And the great thing that I loved about this class, which I literally just took in the last year, was a lot is happening, and there's now a huge amount of scientific research and attention being paid, because people, we're living longer, right? So obviously when the average life expectancy was 50 years old, you weren't thinking a lot about 70-year-olds, because they existed, but they were in little tiny rare population pockets. Now that sort of the average life expectancy is just shooting up and getting longer and longer, and every day there's something in the media about somebody who's 115 years old somewhere in the world. It's really exciting. And what does it mean if the average life expectancy continues to move up, and I'm looking at, I might live to be 100 and I'm 70? What do I do for 30 years? I'm not just going to be the stereotypical somebody sitting on a rocking chair on a front porch for 30 years. That's a long time or more. So again, science is paying attention. Like I said, this course I took was really informative, and I thought that the textbook, which was very new, was doing a great job of explaining all the unknown. What does happen? How can you continue in terms of cognitive abilities, in terms of emotional and psychological development, in terms of physical development, in terms of everything from work activities to romance to everything, because it's not some sort of situation where the person ceases to experience things. And in fact, I'm sure we have more research, we have more resources, and we continue to expand our life expectancy. And imagine what will happen when we come up with even better medical treatments for things like cancer, and if we cure cancer, sort of the stereotype, what will that do to life expectancy? So there's so many exciting things happening, and what I'm saying is that as you have these longer periods of life, what do you do in that time? What do you do? Because sort of just by just sort of the odds of it, the longer you live, the odds are you're going to get to these summits. You're going to get to these points where it's like, hey, I did that thing. I don't want to do it again. Now what? And even sometimes I'll talk to people who had a family very early, so very young. They had a family, and so they're in their 40s, and their children are adults out and about in the world. And what do you do? That sort of empty nest syndrome that we all sort of hear about. A lot of people experience that and talk about the challenge with that. Some people go and start over and expand their family with new children, new members. Some people say, and I've had people say to me socially, I've done that. I'm not doing any more with that. My kids are grown and I'm going on to the next thing. That's what we're talking about. So when you hit that satisfaction saturation, right? You've done this, you don't want any more of this. But what's next? That's where we are. And we have an interesting episode that we're handling for the kickoff of the series, and it's come up for a couple of reasons. The show episode title is, Should I Go Back to School? Do I need multiple college degrees? And this, of course, is basically asking how much education is too much. We have so much in society, again, a bit lopsided focus, not necessarily lopsided, I'll say, but there's a lot of discourse and communication in society about, how do we get young people to, finish middle school or enter into high school successfully? How do we get them to complete high school? That's a huge measure in most parts of the world. How do we get people to finish that period in their lives and graduate? How do we get people who finish high school to, or complete high school or high school equivalency? How do we encourage them to get a college education or go to university? These are all very important discussions. But there's another part of this aspect where you have someone who doesn't have the issue of how do I get them to complete a diploma or degree, but they are, again, on the other side of the process and start saying, how much is too much? And when I was researching and putting together this show, of course I thought, okay, let me go look and see, who are some of the people that have the most amount of degrees that are earned, because certainly you can have a degree that is an honorary degree that is bestowed on someone, which is quite an honor, but that's not the same as literally sitting down at the beginning of a degree plan and looking up how many credit hours you need and thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to come up with, 36 or 45 or 88 or 120 credit hours, and sort of just class by class, task by task, building up those credit hours successfully. That is a much more certainly time-consuming process. So when I was looking, I found some research that I put in the show notes to a 71-year-old gentleman in the United States who has earned 29 college degrees. So this was a 2012 article, and it was saying he'd earned 29 college degrees as of the time, 2012, and he was pursuing his 30th college degree. Wow! So that brought up the old cliche, but I certainly think there's some validity in that. As per Aristotle, all things in moderation. I think that there's something to that. And it's important as we look at our lives that we don't, again, ignore when we get to these satisfaction saturation points. And in terms of education, again, there's so much dialogue with people who are trying to encourage someone to get their first diploma or their first degree. But what about, again, the other end of the spectrum? So that's the issue. Should I go back to school? Do I need multiple college degrees? Partially, of course, this hits a little bit close to home. I recently went back to school and earned and graduated with my 4th college degree. So when I was starting to sort of look at the show, there's a little bit of sensitivity there, because I have had multiple occasions where people have expressed to me that maybe that's a little excessive. So here we go. Starting from my own anecdotal experience, answering the question, should I go back to school? And then the second part of the question is, do I need multiple college degrees? I'm going to answer the second part of the question first because it seems so easy. The question, of course, is, do I need multiple college degrees? And the answer, in in my estimation, is unequivocally no. You do not need multiple college degrees. I would argue no one actually needs any college degrees. They're not necessary. Now, in many parts of the world, in many cultures, there's a perception based on often pretty consistent data that earning advanced education skills, advanced degrees, does tend to, for the whole entirety of the population, produce better outcomes. So for all of the people that earned, college degrees, as a group, they tend to have lower unemployment rates. They tend to have a higher income. They also tend to have a higher job satisfaction from the large group of people who don't have the degree. Now, within those groups, are there people who have a college degree that will tell you, and I've met many people anecdotally that tell me, it's a total waste. I never should have gone to college. It was horrible. Okay, totally, absolutely. Are there other people that you can talk to that never went to finish a degree or even start a degree, and they'll say to you, look how successful I am. I've accomplished all my goals. I have every single goal surpassed. I'm professionally successful, economically successful, financially successful. My family is successful. Hey, I didn't need to go to college. And both of them are accurate. They're not lying, but that's just their one individual experience. In the aggregate, the whole group, the numbers do consistently show that with more specialized skills, if you're going to be using those skills in the job market, that you tend to have better outcomes as a group. Again, when we're talking satisfaction saturation, though, there's some people who just keep going. So, okay, if I'm arguing you don't need multiple college degrees, and I'm even saying it's not I can't guarantee somebody that they need any degree. It typically, though, gives you a better potential, a better probability that you're going to have better outcomes. So on that, I do, and I've done programs on, and will continue to do lots of programs on, is education at different levels worth it? I would argue that for the majority of people, finishing a high school, finishing an undergraduate college degree is a really good idea. And it does tend to have, over time, in the aggregate, positive benefits versus the option of doing nothing. But we're talking about our satisfaction saturation group. This is a group who, hey, I'm on my 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 29th, 30th college degree. Am I having some sort of a problem here, or am I just making really good choices? So, as I said, when we sit down to look at satisfaction saturation, the hardest thing is step one, right? The first thing with anything in life is denial. First, there's a denial that somebody's reached satisfaction saturation. So sometimes I'm working with somebody or mentoring someone, and it's pretty evident from what they're telling me, the consistency of what they're telling me, that let's say, for instance, that their very impressive job in terms of job title and income is something that's not bringing them any joy or much joy, right? So even though other people at their organization or in their family or in their communities might say to them, hey, you have it made, you're vice president of this, or, wow, look at your company you work for, that's so great, or look at that big university, or, whatever it is. Other people may say to them they should be, look how lucky they are, look how easy it is for them. Wow, okay. But the person doesn't feel that. So the denial part is you have to be honest. Just because you should feel a certain way, you think that's what the culture's told you or the media's told you or people have told you. That doesn't have anything to do with how you feel. So there's a couple of questions that I'm asking in the show notes to try to begin to use frameworks for all of these satisfaction saturation shows. And the first question is, are you operating from a position of contentment or fear? Now, on this point, it's interesting because, our fears come from lots of different places, but many of the fears we have in life are long-standing, ingrained fears. So it might be, that somebody has a fear of spiders, or, somebody has a fear that they're going to be, homeless. They're going to have economic, challenges and run out of money. And I have talked to and know and experienced people who have fears that they're not really rationally related to their current life, right? But the fear is triggered by something that they experience, and it's based on something. Often it's based on something that really did have a powerful impact on them when they were young. So if there's somebody, for instance, for me, I was attacked, I guess it's the right word, by a neighbor of my grandmother had a dog, a larger dog, and the dog, viciously attacked me, and it bit me and sort of, punctured sort of in my, head and neck area, and it was, I still remember this. Since I was a little kid, it was frightening, right? You have to, go to the hospital, and it's scary. So to this day, I'm scared of big dogs. It doesn't make any sense. Nothing's happened since then, and I was a very young child, but I do remember it, and it was enough for me. Like so if I'm at the dog park and there's, a big dog that looks scary to me for whatever reason, it just triggers all of that in me, and I'm frightened, and I'm going to move away as quickly and safely as I can, and okay, fine. And some people, no matter how much money they make, no matter how much money they have, will feel that they're frightened of economic insecurity based on their life experiences or things that they've taken in as they've grown up, and they just feel that way. So if it's totally possible, and in fact it happens quite frequently, and this is why I'm talking to these group members in this series, where somebody wants to go get the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh college degree or credential, and it's not because they're contented. It's not because they feel like, I'm really interested in that area and I would like to learn more. It's really because they're scared. They're frightened. They're fearful that people think, well, if I just get more degrees, then it'll give me more of a buffer for something bad happening, either economically, professionally, and it becomes fear motivated. And anytime we're operating from that fear motivation, we're probably not making good choices. In other words, if I said to myself, I will never ever go outside and go exercise and go walking or go to any park or anything because there could be a dog outside, then I'm restricting myself, preventing myself from exercise and fresh air, and that's not logical. Now, if I say to myself, okay, if I'm out and I'm exercising and walking and I see a big dog, then I'll move away or make sure I don't encounter that dog or close to it. That to me is more rational. If someone is saying, I want to go back to school for my third, fourth, fifth, sixth, degree, because I am really interested in this area, I have the ability and the time or the money or whatever, great. If they're saying they want to do it because they're scared to death that there'll be, layoffs in their industry or that people are, closing down businesses and they're frightened that they'll not have anything to do professionally, then that's not a good choice. Because you don't want it, you're just trying to use it because you're scared of something else bad happening. And so when I went back to get my last college degree, it was largely because I had this interest in psychology, and I'd had this interest for a very long time. And I really wanted to see how many psychology classes I could take to begin to integrate that information with all of the other, parts of what I do. I understand a lot about business because I have, a graduate business degree. I understand a lot about law. I have a doctorate of jurisprudence or law. But I always am confused. Why do people do this? What's happening? So I wanted more psychology, and I had taken prior undergraduate and graduate classes, but I wanted more. Now, I don't want to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. That's not what my goal was. My goal, though, was to take as many of these classes as I could to sort of augment what I already do. And so that's what I did. So I searched around for different, degree programs that fit my, my schedule and my interests, and that allowed me to take the classes I wanted. I'm not doing this, because I have to. I'm doing it because I want to. And then I, was able to find programs that would allow me to sort of come up with my own major and minor areas of concentration, and that just allowed me to indulge these interests and learn things. So that's a place of contentment. It's not a place of fear. The second question I'd asked in the notes is, and this is hard, and it sounds, again, for people who've not, been in this experience or know people in this experience, it sounds weird, but often in life, people who are very goal-oriented and they start to accomplish and surpass their goals, they tend to be so focused on looking forward to the next mountain that they don't stop to realize, look at what I did. And they don't take what I'm calling pleasurable-only events to celebrate what they've accomplished. They just keep rushing ahead. And I think part of that is an unhealthy response to not wanting to treat yourself well. When you accomplish something, you should be proud of that. I'm not necessarily saying each time you accomplish something you're going to throw, a ticker tape parade and that you're going to go and, just do, some elaborate celebration. I'm just saying, though, that mentally it's okay to have succeeded. There's a whole other area of the fear of success, which is somewhat related to this, but usually people that get to satisfaction saturation, that's not their main issue. They don't have the complete fear of success because they're getting all this success. They're already accomplishing things. But they'll still have this inability to say to themselves, good job. I'm proud of you. You say that to yourself. And so in the questions, in the show questions I asked, are you executing pleasurable-only events and time to celebrate your past accomplishments? And this is important. And I just think many times you were so driven and focused and disciplined and made good choices and you accomplished the goal. Yay! But then you're like, I got to get to the next goal. Okay. And did you stop to do anything to celebrate the last one? And the celebration literally could be, you read a good book or took a nice hot bubble bath or, went to the gym extra or whatever makes you happy. But you need to take that time to say, you know what, I did a good thing. I'm proud of that. I worked hard or whatever it is that you feel was part of how that happened. And treat yourself, pleasurable only event, not work related, pleasurable only, a movie, a concert, just anything, or time, just to sit and say, I did that. I'm happy. I did that. I'm proud of myself. And many people struggle with that, again, long-rooted issues that are preventing them from fully embracing all that they are. And when you accomplish things, many people who are sort of in unhealthy patterns with themselves will still refuse to give themselves credit for it. Right? I just got lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. Yeah, maybe you were in the right place at the right time, but you also had the skills. You followed through. Own that. It's very important and healthy. The next question I asked is, how patient are you with yourself? And this is an issue, unto itself, and certainly I do a lot about this. But again, following with this idea of pleasurable-only events and time, do you give yourself a break? A lot of people who are satisfaction saturation community members, you're just so focused on the next thing. You don't even stop to say to yourself, hey, be patient. And I'll talk to people who have accomplished so many things, it's literally sometimes overwhelming. You think, wow, how did one person get all this stuff done, already in life? And that they're still sort of berating themselves. I could have done this better. Yes, I have this many degrees, but I could have had a higher, grade point, or I could have done more. Everyone could have done something. It's the person who climbs the tallest mountain in the world, and they start telling you, well, I did it too slowly. What? Stop! The satisfaction saturation, as you can tell, is attached to the event. It's not attached to the person. And many people who are able to sort of rack up a lot of accomplishments still treat themselves very poorly. And they often will use these accomplishments to try to offset the fact that they don't view themselves in a healthy way. They're not proud of themselves. They don't have a healthy relationship with who they are. And that's why this being patient with yourself is incredibly important. Who cares what your grades were on your 4th college degree or 8th college degree? Really? I mean, are you serious? Who cares what your speed was at the climbing the mountain or running the marathon or, really? Stop. You did something awesome. Celebrate that. Perfection does not exist. It's a goal. And if it's attained, it's temporary and fleeting. So stop. The other questions that are part of the show notes for this, trying to figure out, should I go back to school? How much joy do you have in a typical day? So that's the thing I said earlier, that I'm coaching someone sometimes, and I can just tell, because every single time they talk about their job, they talk about how horrible it is, and how miserable they are, how their stomach hurts, and their head hurts, and they throw up when they have to go there or whatever. Those are clues that you're not joyful about this thing. So if you think you're going to go back to school, and then you start looking at your schedule and looking at the classes and thinking, oh my gosh, I got to take the textbook, and my head already hurts, and my stomach hurts, I don't want to look at a syllabus, this makes my head hurt, what if my grades are poor, what if everyone thinks I'm stupid? Stop. This is not bringing you any joy. The last question I shared is, how are you of service? And I've done other programs on this, and we'll continue that, especially for people who reach satisfaction saturation points. You've accomplished things that are either rare or unusual or whatever, or hard, and you need to be grateful that you've done that, even if it's just to yourself, although most of us have it to understanding that there are other things that we should be grateful, our health or whatever, people in your life that you care about or that care about you, whatever spiritual or religious practice you have. But you need to be of service. Just constantly rushing to the next mountain, just constantly more. There's no amount of college degrees, no amounts of mountains you'll climb, there's no amounts of anything, medals or money or anything that'll fill up sort of an empty core of a person. And we all sort of know this, but I don't think a lot of us are fully aware of it and are practicing it in our lives. So if you're asking yourself, should you go back to school, do you want to? Is it something that you're contented about? Is it something that you look forward to? How do you feel about registering for classes and looking at that, all the process that's involved? Are you kind of excited, or are you kind of frustrated and angry? These are all the signs that will give you the answer to the question for you. If you have a love of knowledge, if you're interested in new things, there's so much research that shows us as lifelong organisms the benefits of thinking and learning new musical instruments, learning new languages. Just everything you can do to sort of keep those neurons firing is excellent, right? Also movement, physical movement is great for us. So going back to school, learning something is great. If you want to go ahead and earn degrees, wonderful. And don't even worry about that question, that silly question of what are you going to do with it? Who cares? Once you're at the point of satisfaction, saturation, you already have so much. What you're doing with it is enjoying it. You like knowledge. It's fun for you. And it gives you something else to think about. Potentially you could meet new people or have new interests or hobbies based on it. You might integrate it into some of your professional life or not, or volunteer work. It doesn't really matter. It's just what are you going to do with it? It's like asking me, what am I going to do with, oxygen? I enjoy it. I need it. If I enjoy and need knowledge, go out and indulge in it. As long as it's in moderation, as long as it's from a place of contentment, you're taking the time to celebrate your accomplishments with the pleasurable-only events. You're patient with yourself. Who really cares? It's unbelievable. You're not going to be stressed about grades and all this kind of stuff. Do your best, enjoy it, and then how much joy. And again, be of service to other people. Right? So all of that is to say welcome again to our Satisfaction Saturation series. As always, you can come to CourtneyAnderson.com for more information, and perhaps I will see you in the classroom, as I feel sometimes when I take my break, I call it, between degrees or studying different areas. I always get the itch at some point. Maybe I'll go back. So who knows? Maybe I'll be your classmate. Thanks again for joining me.